There have been observed tsunamis already hitting the region, probably of about 1 meter, which is about 3 to 4 feet, and less. They've also been warning of potential tsunamis as high as 5 meters, which is about 16 feet. The other issue is that tsunami could sort of rock or sort of echo back and forth in the Sea of Japan area. So sort of go back to the Russian coast and then bounce back to hit Japan again. It may be smaller, but it could still cause damage. So that's a concern that's being talked about on public television right now.
Korea. The government is warning a tsunami is on its way after a series of earthquakes that have hit the centre of the country in the past couple of hours. Tim Hornyak is reporting on this for The Times from Nagasaki and is live with us. Morning/evening, Tim.
Good morning.
Just explain for us how big is this? I mean, it's 7.4 on the Richter scale, but what does that mean in terms of damage, of effect, of size of tsunami?
Yes, well, it's hard to say because the information that's been coming in is sort of patchy because they've lost power in some parts of the area. But the 7.4 is, of course, a major quake in terms of magnitude. On the Japanese intensity scale, it's a 7, which rates so powerful that it can destroy some buildings. So that's very significant. We've seen footage and images already of buildings in the region that have been knocked down. These are mostly older wooden structures with the Japanese tile roofs. You can see them in agricultural areas that so those collapsed. That means I expect to see more reports of casualties coming in. So far, they've been very minimal.
And obviously, Japan is a country which has weathered earthquakes and tsunamis in the past. What kind of planning and preparation and contingency planning has now kicked in? I mean, I mentioned, evacuate flashing up on public screens. I mean, what kind of drills are underway?
Well, Japanese are well versed in drilling for disasters like this. Children from a young age are taught to hide under their desks, for example, and evacuate from the school buildings when appropriate, and led by teachers. And so their response to disasters is generally pretty remarkable in terms of things being carried out in a calm manner. And other preparations, including, emergency food supplies and the readiness of the self-defense forces to come in and help. So these would be kicking in now, but there are some things, as I mentioned before, power outages, which make communication so difficult, and understanding how massive a hit Japan has taken, that is also very difficult. You mentioned tsunamis earlier on. There have been observed tsunamis already hitting the region, probably of about 1 meter, which is about 3 to 4 feet, and less. They've also been warning of potential tsunamis as high as 5 meters, which is about 16 feet. The other issue is that tsunami could sort of rock or sort of echo back and forth in the Sea of Japan area. So sort of go back to the Russian coast and then bounce back to hit Japan again. It may be smaller, but it could still cause damage. So that's a concern that's being talked about on public television right now.
And how concerned should we be about, as we were briefly discussing earlier on in the programme, the number of nuclear power stations which are on that coast?
That's right. One of the world's largest nuclear power station is in Niigata, and that has been offline for safety improvements following the devastating 2011 quake, which hit northern Japan and caused not only a tsunami and the loss of about 20,000 lives, but a nuclear disaster at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. So this other one in Niigata has been offline since then, but recently received the central government or central authority approval to restart operations, and it was pending local authority to resume. As far as we know, there's nothing out of the ordinary reported there today at that plant, and so fingers crossed that that'll stay that way. What we will probably see more of, as I said before, is casualty reports coming in of people injured or unfortunately losing their lives to this situation, and also property damage too.
Yes. And just finally, how are things where you are? You're in Nagasaki, and just correct me if I'm wrong. That's in the south of Japan, isn't it? And
That's correct. Yeah, that's
have
in
you
the
have you
south
been
of
hit by
Japan.
any of the tremors, any of the earthquakes in this?
No, nothing down here where we are, but interestingly enough, the northern part of this southern island called Kyushu, which is one of the main Japan islands, the northern coast of that is under tsunami warning. So the tsunami warning is effectively all across
Yeah.
the western coast of Japan from Hokkaido Island up in the north, along Honshu, the main large island, and to Kyushu in the south. So this is something when they flash this kind of a warning map on the public television here in Japan, this is something that you don't see very often, and it usually doesn't last as long as it is lasting today. And of course, the last time people would have seen something like this would have been the major disaster in 2011.
Yeah. Thank you very much for updating us on all of that, Tim. That's Tim Hornyak reporting for The Times from Nagasaki in Japan, as he was discussing there a 7.3 earthquake and all those tsunami warnings which flow from that. He was talking about the situation in the Sea of Japan and how it could, some of the sort of impact and the tsunamis could bounce back off Russia and sort of have a secondary effect on Japan. The TASS news agency, the Russian news agency, is reporting that the city of Vladivostok, which is in Russia's far east, they've issued a tsunami alert there, telling fishermen and others who plan to go out into the water to return to shore. It's about 6:30 Japanese time in the evening. So as Tim was saying, there'll be many more reports of this throughout the day here UK time.